So welcome everybody to WPL's virtual cooking class, Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies with Colin McCullough. Since Colin went vegan in 1995, he has been finding new ways to make healthy eating convenient and delicious, especially while raising two boys with healthy appetites. Colin teaches private and public cooking classes throughout New England, sharing his experience and recipes with people who want to incorporate more whole food, plant-based meals for health, compassion, and the environment. He has published two books, The Healthy Vegan Cookbook and Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies. You can learn more about Colin on his website and Facebook page. Links are in the recipes handout. And fun note, we do have Colin's book in now, if you can see me up here in the little corner. So that is available for checkout. Welcome, Colin. Oh, one more thing. This project was funded by federal funds from the National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, with the University of Massachusetts in Worcester. Thank you, Colin.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me back. I think I've taught classes at Worcester. It's one of the longest running places that I've been teaching these cooking classes at. So thank you so much for having me back again.
Thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you. When we switched over to doing these online, I really would much rather be doing these in person. One of the best things about teaching the cooking classes at the library is being able to make the food and then hand out samples for everybody to try. Just to see people's faces light up, when they try the food. It's one of my favorite parts of doing these programs. So I guess I have to take it upon myself now to drink everything that I make. I can't hand it out as samples. So this is going to be breakfast for me for the next couple of days. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I could see in the chat. All right. All right. So the recipes for today are from Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies. So you can see that here. This is just a fun kind of little mini book that I wrote. This is available on Amazon, also at the library, of course. It is on Amazon, $5 for the print version, and then it's $3 for the ebook version on Amazon. So that is there. In the time of all the politics happening right now and COVID, this is just for fun. This is just one thing that I put out there that's really just for fun. Trying to kind of take my smoothie game to the next level here. So, when I wrote the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, that was a year, about 2 years ago now, that I wrote this. One of the things I concentrated on in the book is smoothies, because that's usually what I have for breakfast. Love to have a smoothie that tastes, like some kind of dessert thing. I have kind of a sweet tooth, so I used to have smoothies a lot for breakfast. I would just kind of throw a bunch of different things together, a bunch of frozen fruit, some almond milk in the blender, blend that up and have that. But I kind of got bored with that after a while, and then I started writing recipes that were really specifically trying to replicate the different tastes of desserts. So that's one of the things in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. There are 30 different smoothie recipes that taste like dessert. And one of the recipes, I made a peanut butter cookie smoothie, and using all healthy whole food ingredients. And so it was kind of an offshoot from that, because it sort of tasted like the Dosito, the Girl Scout cookie, the peanut butter Girl Scout cookie. But I wanted to see, like, if I could tweak it some, how close could I get it to something that tastes, I love Girl Scout cookies, they taste great. So if I could make a smoothie that tasted like that, but use healthy whole food ingredients, that was sort of like the holy grail I was going after. So I managed to do that with that one recipe, and then I kind of made it a fun little side project when I was done with the book to take all 10 Girl Scout cookie flavors and turn them into healthy smoothies. So that's what I did for the Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies. Really, the kind of the how it's based, how the whole thing is based is for all 10 of the recipes. What I'm doing is I'm using different fruits and vegetables that you know, by themselves don't really have a strong flavor, especially if they're frozen. You know, freezing fruits and vegetables really kind of helps to blunt the flavor of that. And so I'm using these healthy whole food ingredients that are don't have a strong taste, that are just kind of sitting in the background. They're giving you all the health and nutrition and everything, but I'm using different flavorings and different extracts to try and replicate those flavors of the Girl Scout cookies. So it's kind of a combination of all these different fruits and vegetables. And what I usually use for flavorings is, you'll see in the different recipes we're going to do today, is I use a company called Lorann Oils, and that's Lorann. I'm not affiliated with them or anything. It's just I've used a lot of their different flavorings and extracts, and I've tried other brands, but Lorann is the one that I really liked. You know, it has really good taste. You only use about 1/8 of a teaspoon. They're very, very strong, very concentrated flavors. So you're really only using a little bit. And so, like I said, you know, trying to get those flavors to really stand out in the foreground, and then have all the healthy stuff in the background. So, you know, one thing I say in the book is, you know, these smoothies are fancy smoothies. So these are not going to be like in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. I've got 30 different smoothie recipes that, you know, you throw it together in 5 minutes. I put it in the mason jar, take it with me, you know, on the go. Keeps me nice and full all morning long, gives me lots of energy. You know, so those are supposed to be like the everyday smoothies. These ones take a little bit more prep time, a little bit more planning ahead, but they are so good. They're so worth it. So these are really kind of meant to be a little extra fancy. So why don't we get started with the first one? The first one I'm going to do is called, this is the thinner mint smoothie. Just having some fun. So, and you know, instead of the cookies, which you know may not be the healthiest thing in the world, you could use healthy whole food ingredients and have the same flavors, and then you know just drink away. So um, I am going to use the blender for this. This is a Vitamix, so this is a really powerful blender. These are pretty expensive new. They're about $350 new if you go to Target. Um, you can definitely find them used on eBay, on Craigslist. They sell them from Vitamix reconditioned for a lot cheaper. If you don't have that, if you have a NutriBullet or a Ninja or something like that, that's going to work fine too. It's just the Vitamix, because it's a really powerful blender, it blends things together really well. You don't have to like prep things ahead of time. It just blends everything. So if you don't have this, then you know we'll talk about different things that you can do as a replacement for that. All right, so I'm going to start with in this one. You know, like I said, I used to just use some almond milk or some soy milk, and you know put it in with a bunch of fruit. One of the things in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook and in this cookbook for the smoothies, I don't use store-bought almond milk or soy milk or anything. I just blend it all in. So I'm going to use nuts. I'm going to use oats, different things to make that like make my own almond milk. And you know, really one of the big benefits of that is, you know, if I'm making almond milk, you know, with just the almonds in the water, and I'm not straining out the pulp is going to just blend in there, help make it nice and creamy. The pulp is where all of the nutrition is. It's where all the vitamins are. So, you know, if you buy the stuff from the store, A, it's not going to really taste like almonds, and then B, it's you know most of the nutrition is taken out of it. So, you know, from a whole foods perspective, I'm trying to use as much of that as I can. So, in this recipe, I'm going to use about 1/4 cup of oats and 1/4 cup of almonds. So I mix those together here. There we go. Now, if you're allergic to nuts, you can just use the oats. That's totally fine. You know, you're basically just making oat milk instead of almond milk. So I'm going to add the 2 cups of water here. And I should say here, I noticed when I was putting everything together that actually the recipes that you have ahead of time are a slightly earlier version of the finished final version. So there are going to be a couple of tweaks that that I'm going to have to, I'll point them out as we go along, but unfortunately, I've forgotten sent the kind of earlier version. So, all right. Rolled oats. Yes. The question was what kind of oats? I just use regular rolled oats. You don't need to use quick oats. I think I had put that in the recipe. So, all right. Sorry, Jen, don't want to take your job away reading the comments.
I was trying to get a snapshot, so I had the little program waiting to maybe try to take a picture of you for our social media. So no, anytime you want to jump in, please do.
Okay. All
And
right.
if you see something, yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. So in all of the different recipes and all the different smoothie recipes, I always recommend blending, whether you're using oats or nuts or a combination of them. I definitely recommend blending that with the water first, just for a minute or two. That's going to really break down, especially like almonds are kind of a harder nut. So, it's going to break that down, blend it up, and then I'm going to add all the rest of the ingredients because everything else is softer. So I'll start with that. All right. One of the great things about a Vitamix is it's nice and loud. So, instead of an alarm clock, all I need to do is turn that on. My kids are, we're nice and awake. Does a great job. And then they would say, not another liquid breakfast. No, good. All right. So actually, when I started this cookbook and I said, hey kids, I want to write a cookbook that is smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies. Can I test it on you? Then yes, they were happy to do that. So, all right. So one of the fruits that I'm going to use to put in the smoothie is bananas here. You can see I have, I'm going to put in a whole frozen banana. So what I like to do is buy a couple of bunches of bananas at a time. I wait until the peels get yellow with a little bit of brown spots so that it turns from starch into sugar. And then I'll peel those, break them in half, put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze those. So I always have bananas on hand, frozen bananas. So one of the smoothie secrets in making it nice and creamy is going to be either using bananas or mango. Frozen mango does the same thing. And again, like I said, if you freeze the banana, then it's not going to have a very strong banana taste. It's different. Like if you were if you had fresh bananas, like only use half a banana because it's going to be stronger. So I'm going to add the frozen banana there. All right. And then I'm going to put in, this is a small bunch of fresh mint, about half a cup or so. It does say in the recipe, leave on stems. That was a change that I made. Do not leave them on the stems. Cross that out. I'm sorry, my mistake. I was thinking cilantro. Cilantro you can leave on the stems, but mint stems are kind of bitter, so you don't want to do that. So fresh mint. This is really one of those recipes where you want to buy the fresh mint if you can find it at the store. It's totally worth it. And it also acts as a vegetable because it is a green plant. So it's going to give it a wonderful flavor. All right, so there's the mint, and you put it in the blender, and it's going to blend in. It's going to blend the flavor in really well. It breaks the plant open and shreds it, so you get all the essential oils from the plant. Tastes fantastic. If anybody's been to my classes before, you know that my sweetener of choice is almost always medjool dates here. So from a whole food healthy standpoint, I always prefer to use dates because it is really the only whole food sweetener that you can use. So it has all the fiber in it. So of course, if you put it in the blender, it's going to blend it all up, and you get all the fiber that goes along with the sweetness. And so it's different from using sugar or agave nectar or something that is really going to spike your blood sugar. But with dates, it really slows that down a lot because it's got all the fiber in it. So just make sure wherever you get the dates from, that you make sure that you pit them. If it comes with pits, sometimes it does. So like I get mine from Trader Joe's. It's easy place to get them from, but most supermarkets have the medjool dates at this point. So I'm gonna put in about 8. So that's definitely more than the other smoothies that I make. Usually I'll put in somewhere between 2 and 4 dates, but you know, I want these to be like a cookie. I want them to be really sweet. And so that is something where, you know, if you're more sensitive to sweetness, if you don't want it to be so sweet, then you can just take out some of the dates. You don't have to use all 8. And then,
Colin, I have a question.
sure.
Is it easy to cook, or rather to bake with dates, to make like baked goods with dates instead of sugar? Is that something
Not
you,
in that not in that form, but you
yeah.
can buy date sugar and use date sugar. And also there's date syrup that you can use. That's and both of those are whole versions of. So it's not stripped away and you know processed. It's whole versions of dates. So you can use either one. Um,
Okay.
I believe that the amounts are pretty equivalent as well. Um, I had a really hard time finding date sugar outside of like a health food store. So that might be something that you know, either like Whole Foods might have it, or if you want to go online, you can definitely order it easily online, and then it
Okay.
just comes right to your door. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. So next ingredient is going to be cacao powder. You can see here. So again, from a whole food standpoint, um, cacao powder is basically like the raw version of cocoa powder. So if that's what you have and that's what you want to use, it's fine. It's just this is a less processed version of it. The taste is not really that much different, but uh, you know, I like to say, you know, people will say sometimes you'll hear you know, chocolate is good for you. And that's true. That's true to an extent. So it's the cacao part of the chocolate that is really good for you. It has a lot of antioxidants, has a lot of nutrients in it. And so that is really good for you. But then you take the cacao and you add a lot of sugar and a lot of fat to it, and then maybe not quite as healthy. So I say, you know, let's use the benefits and the nutrition of the raw cacao, and so you get all of that, plus you get the delicious chocolate taste. So I'm gonna put that in, and the cacao, you might be able to find it in a regular supermarket. It's becoming easier to find now. Like I said, you can just use cocoa powder if you want. You know, you might have to go to Whole Foods to find it, or you know, again, just order it online. You can order a big bag of it, lasts a really long time. All right, and in all of the smoothie recipes, I always put in 1 tablespoon at least of seeds. So I have some flax seeds here. You could use hemp seeds. You can use chia seeds. Seeds are like little nutritional powerhouses, right? So you know, the seed is a small, you know, just the beginning of a tiny little plant, right? So I'm gonna put in the tablespoon of the seeds, and you don't even taste it. You put it in, it's just like a little extra nutrition boost there. As far as the flax seeds go, if you don't have a really powerful blender like a Vitamix, then the flax seeds are going to be something that you're going to want to maybe use a little spice grinder or coffee grinder or something like that, just to grind that up ahead of time, because flax seeds are um, they have kind of a tough like shell husk kind of thing to them. So you're going to want to use a grinder for that, or you could just use hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are much softer. They blend right in. You don't need a powerful blender for that. So either one. I'm just doing it for nutrition.
We
All
do
right.
have a
And then,
question. How much
okay.
cacao again?
I've got 3 tablespoons. So really want that chocolate taste to be pretty strong there.
Thank you.
Yep. And this is going to be peppermint extract. So most supermarkets have some kind of peppermint flavor extract. This is going to really make that mint flavor really strong. I want this to be really powerful taste. So I'm going to put in 1/2 teaspoon. I had put in originally 1 teaspoon, but I knocked that down to 1/2 because this is very concentrated. It's very strong. Um, Turned out that 1 teaspoon was a little too much. So that, and then I'm going to put in next one. It's going to be espresso powder, about 1/4 teaspoon of espresso powder. This one is totally optional. but this is King Arthur brand espresso powder. It's just ground espresso beans, basically. So I'm only using a little bit, about a quarter of a teaspoon. This is espresso powder is kind of the baker's secret from restaurants. You add just a little bit to any chocolate dessert. It's going to make it taste stronger, richer, really kind of boost up the chocolate flavor. If you only use about a quarter of a teaspoon, it's definitely not something that you're going to taste in there. It's not going to be, like espresso that's going to, be full of caffeine and, make you bounce off the walls. It's just a quarter of a teaspoon, so just a little bit. This, I have a hard time finding this in the supermarket. I just order this online. I get it on Amazon, comes right to my door. I just use a quarter of a teaspoon at a time. This will last me for months. So I just keep it in the fridge. And then I'm gonna put in about a half a teaspoon of sea salt. So this, if you've been to my classes before, this is the brand that I like to use. This is Redmond real salt. So this is, it is becoming more available in supermarkets now, but normally I would find this at Whole Foods or just order it online. This one bag is, this is, let's see, 26 ounces. This one bag of salt is gonna last me for months. So this is a high quality salt. Redmond real salt has the highest nutrient amount of any salt on the market. So if you're going to use salt, then this is what I recommend using. About a half a teaspoon here. All right, that's a little too much. So basically, if you're trying to replicate the taste of a Girl Scout cookie of Thin Mints, then they all use salt, and they use salt as a booster. So you're not going to taste the salt. It's not going to be, the cookies are not salty. It's just there to amplify the existing tastes. So you just use a little bit of salt, and it just acts as an amplifier. And then the last thing I'm going to put in, again, totally optional, but I use the Loran. This is the chocolate flavor from Loran. So again, this is just to try and make the chocolate taste a little bit stronger. It's a very concentrated, so you really only need to use a little bit. I use 1/8 of a teaspoon. See, this is my special 1/8 of a teaspoon that I ordered just for Loran oils, because you really, really don't want to use that much. Right, there we go. Teaspoon. All right, and then the last thing that I forgot to put in the recipe that you guys have is the 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So this is important. Definitely want to add the vanilla. The vanilla really is one of the flavors that makes it taste like a cookie. So I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons of that here. I make my own vanilla, so that's my own brand. So much cheaper if you make your own vanilla. If you ever look up on YouTube how to do it, it's a very long process. This is 8 months old, so it does take a long time to brew, but it definitely tastes better than anything you're going to buy in the store, and it's so much cheaper to make your own as well. So throw that in there. All right, so I think everything is on here, and I'm just going to take a minute to blend this up here. This is a great time if anybody has any questions or any comments they want to throw in about this, then this is just going to take a minute to blend this up here. All right, so this isn't quite done yet. I can still hear, I don't know if you can hear it where you are, but I can still hear like little ticking sounds. So that tells me that especially the dates are not totally broken down yet. If you don't have the Vitamix, then you could soak the dates ahead of time in some hot water for about 15 or 20 minutes. That really helps to soften it up as well. And also I want to point out, I like to use medjool dates. There's two different kinds of dates that you might find in a supermarket. There's the medjool dates, which are kind of large and they're chewy. Usually they have the pits in them, so you have to take them out. So there's the medjool dates, and then there's the smaller deglet noir dates. And you might find the deglet dates over with like the nuts, in the nut section, but medjool dates are what I like to get. Getting easier to find them. They usually hide them for some reason in the produce section of regular grocery stores. If you are in the produce section and you can see like under where the potatoes and stuff are, they're usually right there. Let's see if I can find the box here. Here we go. Yep. Natural Delights. This is what they look like here. So like if you see like where they sell the jarred ginger and the garlic and all that in the produce section that's like under a shelf somewhere, then they're probably right around there somewhere. So I'm just gonna blend this for another minute just to try and break it up more. In the blender, you want to keep it going until you don't hear any more of the little ticking sounds anymore. So I'm gonna just go ahead and run this for another minute. So I would probably let this run for just another minute or two, just to make sure everything gets broken down. I want to be cognizant of time here and not take up all of your time just sitting there watching me blend. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour this out so we can move on to the next one here. But you can see this is a really nice brown color here from the chocolate. Right, there we go. And of course, there's a little bit of green in there from the fresh mint getting blended in, but it's really the brown color, and this tastes fantastic. It's like I said, it's very strong. It's supposed to be very strong. Again, trying to make these as close to Girl Scout cookie flavor as possible. I didn't want to wimp out and not make it very, very strong. So.
Colin, did you mention how long dates last?
About a week in my house.
A week. Okay. How about on the shelf? Say you don't use them all right away.
Yeah, they'll last like a month or two on the shelf. Dates are just dried fruit, so it's just gonna dry more and like become petrified eventually. But the nice thing about using dates is they are considered a fruit, of course, dried fruit. So in this recipe, we have in terms of like servings of fruit, we have the dates counts as one serving. We have the banana that counts as a serving. You use so much fresh mint in there, then that actually counts as I believe a half a serving. So you have all of this nutrition in there that's going to keep you nice and full all morning long. What I used to do, years ago, I would have fruit for breakfast and just nothing else. And I kind of got sick of cut fruit. But also, fruit, it's the fastest thing that you can eat that you digest. So it's very, very fast. It takes about a half an hour for your stomach to digest fruit versus everything else. It's a lot longer than that. So, you'll eat fruit and then about a half an hour later, you're hungry again because it's, fruit, like your body can digest fruit all day long. Piece of cake, you get more energy from it than it takes to process it. So it's great. So in this version as a smoothie, if you, I'll put it in the mason jar here, the quart jar. And I definitely will not drink this all at once. I'm going to drink this slowly over the course of the morning. Before COVID, I used to work from the road all the time. And you know, I'm not going to bring a bowl of like cut fruit and eat that for breakfast. That's really inconvenient to me. This is great. And you know, it's you know, people you know, trying to eat healthier, and they have like oatmeal for breakfast, and like this, to me, like this tastes so good. Like I don't oatmeal to me is pretty boring. You know, why not have oats in this that taste like Girl Scout cookies? So I'll put that over there. And were there any other questions for that recipe before we move on to the next one?
I don't see any, but I will have Dot update the link that I'm sending you guys with the recipes. I don't have access to that, so I can't update it today. But next week when she's in, I'll have her make those changes. So it was just remove stems from the mint and the 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, right?
And then eight of the medjool dates instead of 6.
Okay.
Yep. And half a teaspoon of the peppermint extract instead of 1 teaspoon. That's too strong.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So the next one we're going to do is the famed Dosito peanut butter cookie. In my case, I call it Dosey Don't. It's just, again, just for fun. Hoping the Girl Scouts don't sue me. So in this one, I'm going to put in a quarter of a cup of roasted unsalted peanuts. You know, if you look at the different recipes in the smoothies that I do, almost always I will use raw nuts. If I'm going to use nuts, sometimes I just use oats, but like raw cashews, raw almonds. I don't really like to use roasted nuts because they're more processed, and also I definitely don't like to use salted nuts because then I want to be able to control how much salt is in it, which is really hard to do with, you know, if you buy them that way. So, but for this one, I'm going to use a quarter of a cup of roasted unsalted peanuts. And it's really important in this recipe because if you use raw peanuts, it's going to have a very raw taste. You know, raw peanuts have a different kind of taste than roasted. So you definitely want to go with the roasted with this, and a quarter of a cup of oats as well. And so same as before, I'm just going to add those in with 2 cups of water and blend that up for a minute just to kind of break those up. And if you've ever tried making peanut butter before in your food processor, you know that you know, if you just put the peanuts in a food processor, just like magic over the course of a couple of minutes, you know, the friction of it, you know, starts to heat up and break down the nuts and turn it into nut butter. But you really have to let it run for a couple of minutes in order to get that kind of friction. So you're doing the same thing here, where you put it in the blender. Ideally, you're going to let it run for a couple of minutes because you want that heat, you want that friction to really break down the nuts, and you're basically like turning it into liquid nut butter in this recipe. So I'm not going to run it for a real long time, but I just do want to break it down a little bit just to get started. And also, you see every time I use the blender, I always put my hand on the top before I turn it on. It's because I like everything in the contents of the blender and not all over my ceiling. Vitamix, just like any other blender, can make a giant mess on your ceiling, and it's nice ceiling. I like it the way that it is. I don't want food all over it. So got to be careful with that. And then also wanted to point out, instead of using peanuts, if you are not wanting to use peanuts because it definitely has a lot of fat, has a lot of calories, you can use peanut butter powder. This is a more processed ingredient, definitely, but peanut butter powder is basically just defatted peanut butter. So it's much lower in fat. You still get all the peanut taste and everything, but you can use that instead if you wanted to. And so I'm going to put in the frozen banana here. I'm got the 2 pieces. And in this one, I'm going to put in half of a cup of mango in addition to the banana. So see, how much peanut butter powder would you use? I probably would go with about 1/4 of a cup, I'd say. Instead of the peanuts. Just use 1/4 of a cup with 2 cups of water without any oats. That's going to give it a really strong peanut taste as well. All right. So I put in 1/2 cup of mango. Again, that mango helps it to be really creamy consistency. You know, mango, frozen mango like this, it doesn't really have a strong flavor to it. So it's just kind of sitting in the background and you just get the nutritional benefit of it. Also, I like to, just for convenience sake, I just buy the frozen mango chunks. Of course, fresh mango is gonna, taste so good. And, I love to sit down with fresh mango, but, it's very messy, takes a while to cut it. Frozen mango for making smoothies, things like this, so much more convenient. So, and then you can just use it whenever you want. So there's the mango. And I'm gonna put in, there's the, sweet potato. So I put in about 1/2 cup of cooked and frozen sweet potato. Again, doesn't really have a strong flavor to it if it's been frozen and cooked here. I like to put sweet potato in so many different things, whether it's dinner, sneak it into desserts, and also put it in smoothies. Sweet potato is one of those vegetables that has a really high nutrient content. They're super good for you. Any chance you can get to sneak some sweet potato in to whatever you're eating, it's really good for you. So I'm going to add that in. Right. And then we're going to put in the dates. So again, I've got 8 medjool dates here, a lot of sweetness here. So you don't have to use that many if you don't want it to be so sweet. But and again, make sure you take the pits out, because even a blender like, a Vitamix is a really powerful blender, but it's just going to turn the pits into little baby pits. And then you're just going to get like, break your teeth when you're trying to drink it. So it's no good. We're going to put in this one. I'll put in a tablespoon of the flax seeds. Again, you can use whatever seeds you want to. This doesn't change the taste. You shouldn't be able to taste these at all. So you can use flax seeds or hemp seeds or chia seeds, whatever you want to use. All right, and then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of the vanilla extract. And I'm going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of the sea salt. Again, just to kind of amplify the tastes that are already there, but not to make the 1/2 teaspoon is just enough that you don't actually taste it in the smoothie. It doesn't taste salty at all. And there are a couple of different Loran oils I'm going to use in this one. Again, just trying to replicate the Girl Scout cookie flavors. I'm going to put in, this is the Loran oil butter flavor. So this is vegan butter flavoring here. And again, I'm just putting in about 1/8 of a teaspoon. The Dositos or the Dosito cookies have a lot of butter in them. So it has a nice buttery flavor. So I'm going to put that in here to try and replicate that. And then also I'm going to put in 1/8 of a teaspoon of the Loran oil butter, peanut butter flavor. So totally optional. You don't have to put it in. Again, it's just kind of an extra concentrated, just trying to punch up the peanut butter taste a little bit more, make this really strong peanut butter flavor. And also I want to point out with the Loran oils, if you go on their website, then I know they have a store locator. You can find where they sell these. Just order them online. It's much, much easier that way. Most stores, if they have them, they don't have the full line. But with these ones, there are many, many dozens of flavors that you can order online. They come in different sizes. You can buy the tiny little 1 gram size. And that's just like a little starter kind of thing. So, you can use just a tiny little bit at a time, like the 1/8 of a teaspoon. I definitely recommend, if you if you just want to try these, if you don't want to invest a lot of money, like, these ones are definitely a lot more expensive, the 4-ounce version. Just go onto Loran. You can buy, a handful of little 1 gram size bottles. It's not that expensive. And then, you can have a little bit to try out. And then if you like it, then definitely go with the 4-ounce bottles. Are a lot cheaper to use in bulk there. All right, and then I'm gonna blend that up here. All right, so again, I would let this run for another minute or two, just to really blend it all up really, really well. When the class is done, when it's all over, I'll go back and blend these a little bit more, just to make sure that everything is totally blended in here. It's nice and creamy. You don't have little pieces of dates or anything like that. You want this to be really, really smooth and creamy. So like I said, this was the first recipe of the 10 that I wrote. And when I kept trying to tweak and modify the peanut butter cookie smoothie recipe from the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, I kept trying different combinations of things to try and get it right. And the time that I got it right was just perfect. It was so good. And I had the biggest smile on my face. I was so excited because, it does taste like, if you took a bunch of Dosito cookies and put it in a blender with some milk, it tastes like that. It's so good. And, I make this in the classes. I make this for my kids. People see this and they're like, okay, they see the sweet potato go in, they see some banana and some mango, and they're like, how is this going to taste like a Girl Scout cookie again? It does. It's amazing. It definitely shouldn't taste as good as it does with all the healthy ingredients in there. But all right, so I'm going to pour this in here, and it's very thick, so need a big straw for this one. So I'll put this on the back here, clean out the blender, and we can move on to the next recipe. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the Dosito smoothie?
I don't see any, but I've recently started baking with sweet potato, and sweet potato brownies are amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would just like to say that.
Yeah. I've even seen some and tried once recipe for black bean brownies. Sweet potato brownies sound a lot better than those, but
I agree.
Lots of different recipes, so maybe I just didn't try the right one. So.
Perhaps.
All right, so the last one we're gonna do for today is the lemon cookie smoothie. So the Girl Scout version is called Savannah Smiles, which doesn't really connotate lemon at all. So I changed, my version is called the Lemony Thicket smoothie because it's very thick, very lemony, so you know what it is. So for this one, I'm gonna add 1/3 of a cup of raw cashews here. So again, it's kind of interchangeable. You can use almonds, you can use oats. Cashews don't really have a very strong taste to them. They make things a little bit sweet, but they don't really have a strong taste, so they just kind of sit in the background and really make the smoothie come out nice and creamy. So I'll put in the 2 cups of water with the 1/3 cup of cashews. Fun trivia fact, cashews, or even raw cashews, are not actually totally raw. If you eat raw cashews, they have a toxin in them that are poisonous to people. So it's really not a good thing you want to have. So They do roast them a little bit, cook them just enough to get rid of that toxin. So when you see the raw cashews at the supermarket, they are not going to be toxic to you. So I'm gonna blend that in. The cashews are a great nut to use for in a blender, especially if you don't have a really powerful blender. Cashews are a very soft nut. They blend in very easily. There's no pulp left in it or anything. It just all blends together, so it's great. To this, I'm going to add the zest of half of a lemon. So this is where if you're going to zest any kind of citrus, you really want to spend a little extra money and get the organic for sure. Non-organic citrus fruit, all the pesticide kind of ends up in the rind or the zest on the outer layer. So spend a little extra more and get the organic. It's better. What I would recommend. Also, I'm going to use a microfine planer for the zesting. It makes it much faster to use than one of those tiny little hand zesters. But with the speed comes danger. So just make sure these are pretty aggressive to use as a zester. So this doesn't know the difference between the lemon and your fingers. So do not zest yourself. This is not part of the recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and do about half of the lemon here. And also one thing I want to point out, no matter what kind of way you zest it, you really want to just take off just the top layer. You don't want to dig into it down to where it's really white, because that's the pith that's really kind of bitter. But if you're just taking off that top layer, you're getting all the zest of the lemon. You get all of the essential oils that are in the lemon, so a really strong taste. So that just kind of helps to boost the lemon flavor up there. And then I'm going to juice the lemon. So you could just use lemon juice in the jar, but then you don't get the zest. So I'm just going to use my wonderful green antique glass juicer for that. Go. And it looks like I managed to be lucky enough to pick the one out that didn't have seeds in it. So it's great. So I'll pour that in, gonna get all the pulp in there, just extra flavor and nutrition. There we go. So this is gonna have a really strong lemon flavor. So this is not for the faint of heart for sure. This is for the strong of heart. It'll make your heart stronger. I'm gonna put in half of a banana here. There we go. And I'm going to put in a half a cup of the frozen mango. So these, again, these just sit in the background. It's not really critical that you use, half of one, half of the other. You could use a whole banana if you want. You could use a whole cup of mango if you want. It's just, if you use, half cups of versions of these, then you're definitely not going to get any taste of it. It just kind of hangs out in the background. Go. And then let's see, I'm going to put in 8 of the medjool dates. So put those here. Go. All right, and then I put in, this is a tablespoon of hemp seeds. So, again, kind of interchangeable. You can use whatever kind of seeds you want, but I like to use the hemp seeds in this one. Blends in really well. They're very soft. You can find these at most supermarkets now. Even the supermarket down the street from me, just the general supermarket, they have them. So you definitely want to put the hemp seeds in the refrigerator. They last a lot longer that way, or you can even put them in the freezer. It's fine as well. I'm going to put in half a teaspoon of lemon extract next. So
Colin,
again,
we have somebody who's not familiar with hemp seeds. Do you want to explain this?
Yeah, so hemp seeds or hemp hearts, it's just from the hemp plant. just like any other kind of seed like that, you know, it's full of nutrition. Hemp seeds definitely have a stronger flavor. Like if you were gonna use like a cup or a half a cup in them or something, then you definitely kind of have, kind of has like an earthy kind of flavor, I guess. But if you just use a tablespoon of it, then definitely not going to taste it, and you get all of the nutritional benefit of it. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry if that's not enough of an explanation. Definitely go online. I'm not a nutrition expert or anything, so I can't really speak to it beyond that. Right. So I'm going to put in a half a teaspoon of the lemon extract. Again, just trying to boost up that lemon flavor so it's really strong. And for this one, I just get the regular lemon extract. You can find that in most supermarkets, that kind of thing. I'm going to use half a teaspoon of turmeric. So that really helps to give it a yellow color. And of course, turmeric, that's one of those super nutritious spices. You know, it has tons of health properties. If you just use about a half a teaspoon, you're not going to taste it. Anything more than that, it's going to be too strong, and it's going to really kind of have an earthy kind of flavor to it as well. So just half a teaspoon putting in there. And I'm going to put in about a half a teaspoon of the sea salt. Let's see. And then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of the vanilla extract. Stuff is like liquid gold because it takes 6 months to make, so I hoard this stuff. All right, and then the last thing is going to be the more of the Loran oil butter flavor here, because the lemon cookies are very buttery. They kind of have almost like a shortbread kind of flavor to them. So put a little bit of that in there. And I'm just going to blend this up for a minute. All right. So again, I'm not going to run it for minutes. I'll do that later. But you can see there's still little spots, like little tiny brown spots. That's the dates that haven't really completely blended in there. So I want this to be completely yellow color and not have any spots in it. So I'm going to blend that just for a couple of minutes just to make sure that it's totally creamy. You're not getting little pieces of anything in there. Right? So there are other questions? I wasn't reading. Let's see.
We did have a question about the vanilla extract. That's the one that takes 6 months to make.
Yeah, there's different ways of shortcutting that if you use a pressure cooker, but if you use the vanilla beans and just let them marinate in either some kind of alcohol like bourbon or vodka, or you can use the, this is the public library, so I'm going to say also you can use the glycerin. Also, you can marinate in the glycerin for 6 months, and then you can make your own that way.
Okay. We have another question. Can you toast the nuts in any of these recipes?
Yeah, generally, if you toast the nuts, though, it kind of gives it a little bit of a different flavor. So, you know, I'm trying to get all of these ingredients to really sit in the background so you don't really taste that as part of the overall smoothie. Excuse me. But you could definitely try that. And again, like I prefer to not use toasted or roasted nuts. I try to use them raw as much as I can, just to, you know, from a whole foods unprocessed standpoint. Yep. Okay.
How long
So
will these last in your fridge?
about a day
A
for
day.
me. No,
How long
no.
will they keep?
All right. So it's I always like to joke. I have like the 4-day fresh rule. So anytime you use fresh ingredients and put those together, it should last for about 4 days.
Mhm.
So when you have salad dressing, when you have the little bottle of lemon juice that is on the door in your refrigerator, when you have the barbecue sauce and things like that that have been there for months and months, and they're still good, then it's just full of preservatives, and it's preserving the stuff in your fridge, but it's not preserving you. So um, 4-day fresh rule. These definitely freeze very well. All right, so you can put these in the freezer. What I like to do is, if I'm going to freeze something, I'll put it in the 1 pint mason jar. Just make sure. I know it's a little hard to see through the camera here, but there is a freeze line right here on mason jars, so you don't want to fill it up past that. If you do and then you freeze it, it's going to crack the container. You don't want to do that. But these take a little bit of extra time, a little extra prep time for these smoothies. So why not make double the batch, or you can make this much, and then you can pour this into 2 different pints and freeze one of the pints, and then just have the other one and drink that one. So freezer is your friend. Right? And also, just wanted to point out in the book, it has all the photos of the different smoothies here. So got all of the pictures. I insisted on having the pictures put in this one. In the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, I wasn't really allowed to have pictures put in because it's a big book. There's 200 different recipes in the book. And my publisher said if we put in color photos, it would be like $50 a book. So we can't do that. But this one, it's got all the beautiful pictures, and my sister-in-law did all the graphic design work, designed the whole thing. So, all right, there's that.
Yes, and we have it here at the Worcester Public Library, so you can find it in our catalog and put a hold on it. We do have 2 questions. So one is, would salted nuts be okay in these
It would.
recipes?
Yeah, it would. It's just if you're going to use the salt and nuts, don't put in half a teaspoon of salt. I would say put everything else in, try it, and then see. Maybe you put in like a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. You definitely don't want to taste salt in these smoothies. The salt is just there to try and amplify and boost up the flavors of everything else. It's not supposed to taste salty at all.
Okay. And one more question. How would you thaw the frozen smoothies?
I would just leave them out overnight on the countertop. Yeah.
Wonderful. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Well, thanks to you, I now have breakfast for the next 3 days. This is fantastic.
Right? What is your favorite, Colin?
Hmm. I'm pretty partial to the peanut butter cookie, the Dosito smoothie. Just as it was the original, and I just love it. It's so good. I really do like the thin mint recipe. The flavors of chocolate and mint together are definitely one of my favorites. Um, in the house where I used to live, I discovered when I was out weed whacking that I actually had a lot of mint growing on the side of the yard. And as soon as I realized that I had an endless supply of fresh mint, then I just started putting mint in everything, making mint tea and Girl Scout cookie smoothies, and made all different desserts with mint. I I love that flavor as well.
Yes, mint is very refreshing.
Mhm.
All right, I'm trying to paste some links in the chat, but I'm having a hard time copying them for some reason. So, oh, there they are. Okay. So check out these links. I'm going to send them in an email, so don't worry about trying to grab them right now if you can't. But they are links to our survey. We love for you to take our survey, tell us how we're doing. More of our adult classes, especially nutrition and cooking. We have a whole new set coming up for this new quarter that we're in, March, April, May. So check those out. Colin, I think you're doing 2. programs, right, next quarter?
I think I have Chef Kim has April.
Yeah.
And then I believe I'm doing a class in May, which is a new class that I've added, which is called Terrific Tubers and Radical Roots. So you can see there's my rutabaga friend up here, some celeriac. So, you know, we learned some different recipes to show some rutabaga some love in the supermarket.
And you're doing an Indian curry class, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
also
I thought there
doing
were
that as
two.
well.
All right.
Yeah.
So they'll be on that page, so you can register now. And then our blog that lists a bunch of sites that you can use as resources for healthy cooking and nutrition information. So do check those out. I'm going to send them in an email shortly. So if there are no other questions, thank you so much, Colin. This was great. I'm very hungry, so I have a banana in my office. I think I'll go eat that. It's not frozen. Won't have any fun flavors on it, but it'll do.
Yeah, it will. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
everybody.
everybody for coming.